It all boils down to one game. Can they seize the opportunity? Can they seize the moment? It is Inter Milan versus Paris Saint-Germain, the final of the UEFA Champions League on the 31st of May at the Allianz Arena. Inter Milan, a three-time champion of the biggest club competition in Europe, while Paris Saint-Germain are searching for their first elusive coveted title. Who will reign supreme in Allianz Arena? With that, I welcome you to another exciting edition of Sports Pizza. My name is Edwin Onyebolise. We have a lot in store for you today, from the local scene and, of course, to the foreign scene. Don't forget, on the Tipsters Corner, we give you some of the very best odds going into the footballing weekend. Once again, it is the best sports show you can get anywhere in the land. Sports Pizza with Edwin Onyebolise and, of course, Bankole Oladuni. I'll bring Bankole on board when we return from this break. Welcome back from that short break, and like I said, I have Bankole Oladuni in the building. Bankole, what's up? How you doing?
I'm fine. It's good to be here again, Edwin. After my debut last week, hopefully it's first of many. And it's a pleasure always being here.
All right, we head straight to business, Bankole. Let's start with the Italian Seria-A. Napoli are champions once again, second title in 3 years, fourth overall. I don't know if I'm a bit harsh, but I think this is the least talented Napoli championship winning team. I don't know if you agree with that.
Well, especially when you consider this is a team who has not won the Scudetto a lot. If you're talking about the Milans, the Inters, the Juventus, these are guys who have done double digits in the league. But Napoli are a team, I think this is their fourth championship. So it is still quite, still quite low when you in comparison to some of the great teams we've seen in Italy. So it's understandable if you say this is the least talented team, especially when you take out that two of the big stars who were in the Scudetto winning team 2 seasons ago are gone. Kvicha Kvaratskhelia and Victor Osimhen have been replaced by Romelu Lukaku. Yes, great striker, has a lot of precedence of goal scoring, but is into his 30s, he's not the same frightening striker that we knew. Scott McTominay, I think he has performed well above our expectations, but he's still Scott McTominay, due respect to him. So I don't think you'll be far from the truth if you say this is the least talented Napoli team.
Okay, so
a Napoli team that had Diego Maradona, a Napoli team that even the non-Scudetto winning Napoli team that had Amshik, the Resmetins, I think are still much more talented than this side also.
So here's where I'm going to. Is this victory solely down to Antonio Conte?
Absolutely. The MVP might have gone to Scott McTominay, but I think the MVP of the Italian Serie-A should be Antonio Conte. You look at what he has done to that team, a makeshift centre-back partnership of Juan Jesus and sometimes Di Lorenzo. Di Lorenzo we thought was finished from last season. Matteo Oliveira also, who's a left back, has also put in a shift in centre-back. Zambo Anguissa has put in a shift. Lobotka picked up an injury at some point in the season. Gibilio Gilmore came in. Raspadori also. The way he has utilized his players, the way he has improvised all through the season. And remember, he has not used his usual 3-4-3. He has used the back four for majority of the season after that first game where he got a trouncing from Udinese. So you look at what he has done, you look at the way he has improved these players, and that is something that has always gone under the radar for Conte. He's a manager who has always improvised. At Chelsea, Victor Moses at right back. At Juventus, he had a front line of Tevez and Morata, making Pelu the deep line playmaker. So this is a man who is well known for improvising, well known for getting the best out of the players he has.
Under the circumstances that you highlighted, you also look at the title-winning teams, the Juventus, then Chelsea, then you have Inter Milan, now Napoli, and of course the Italian team that he took to the Euros 2016, one of the quote-unquote worst Italian team in recent memory. Under the circumstances, would you say this Napoli win is the most impressive of his career so far?
I think the Italian team in Euro 2016, I think that was more impressive. I mean, when you look at the front line of Graziano Pelle, Semiano Zaza, Chiacherini also, and he got them to the quarterfinals, losing to Germany on penalties. That was a team who could have gone all the way. So I think this is, like I said, he's a manager who has set a well-known precedence of improvising, a well-known precedence of improving players, making lemonade out of the lemons that he has been given.
Yeah.
And yes, he could throw tantrums about not being backed in his transfer window, but he also has this ability of getting the best out of what he has. So the Italian team in Euro 2016 in France, I think that was the hardest job he could have done. That was nobody had any expectation for Italy, even in the group stage.
But in terms of winning, is this the most impressive?
In terms of winning, absolutely. In terms of winning, this is not just for Antonio Conte. This is the most impressive Scudetto win from any manager in the last decade. I can't recall any manager who got the best out of his team, probably aside from Pioli and AC Milan. But even though that had a Rafael Leao, he had a Olivier Giroud scoring goals, Franceschi, Tonali. But you look at this Napoli team, I don't think if you compare them to any Scudetto winning team, you want to make a combined 11 of any Scudetto winning team with this Napoli side, I don't think they would make 2-3 players in any combined 11.
Does this say more about the lack of strength and competitiveness in the Italian Serie-A?
No, I don't think so. It says more about how coaching is at its highest in Italy right now. And I mentioned it last time when we were here. An Italian manager is the coach of the Brazilian national team. An Italian manager is the coach of the Ajax team, which we all know as a definite rule of hiring Dutch guys. So it shows you the level of managing, of coaching in Italy right now. You look at the top three: Conte, Gasperini. You have Farioli also. You have Ranieri with Roma. You have the guys, Bologna with Italiano. So this bunch of coaches, this set of coaching of coaches in Italian league is one of the best in Europe, if not the world at the moment. So I think it's more of an uptick in coaching. Yes, there might be a downturn in talents, there might be a downturn in the caliber of players, but I think in response to that, there's been an improvement, a significant improvement in coaching.
He scored some very, very important goals for Napoli. I had a conversation with a couple of people over the weekend, and I asked them, hey, is the Italian Serie A one of the biggest leagues in the world? They said yes, definitely, and was top 3 in Europe. And I asked them, if the best player in the Italian Serie A is Scott McTominay, does it mean Scott McTominay is one of the best players in the world?
Based on form, absolutely. Based on form, one of the best players in the world at the moment. Yeah, you could go a couple of months away now, and it might not be so. But if you consider the Italian league one of the best leagues in the world, if you consider him the best player in one of the best leagues in the world, then you should be having a conversation about McTominay being one of the best players in the world after the end of the season, based on his performance this season. So yeah, I don't think there should be any debate about it. If you have Salah as one of the best players, or as the best player in the English Premier League, as one of the best players in the world, you have Dembele in Ligue 1 as one of the best players in the world. I also think Scott McTominay should also be considered that.
All right, away from Napoli, Juventus sneaked in on the final day against Venezia. Roma did all they could, but it wasn't enough. The Europa League is their ticket. But the biggest disappointment was Lazio, losing to Lecce, who, with that win, secured their stay in the Italian Serie A.
Yeah, I think this is an underrated, or a point that has gone under the radar for a very long time, as to how relegation team teams battling relegation in the Italian Serie A play some of the best footballs at the end of the season. We saw it with Parma, we saw it with Genoa, even though they were dead and buried in the water. Now we've seen it with Lecce. These are teams who, in previous season, we've seen it with Salernitana, we've seen it with Sampdoria, who really got lucky not getting relegated to Serie A. But we've always seen some of the best teams towards the tail end of the season come from the lower league side, lower side at the bottom of the table. So it just pays antecedent to what I said about the coaching. You look at what Lecce did to Lazio, you look at what Parma did to Napoli. When you consider Parma lost their manager at the start of the season to Fiorentina. So these are the things that I talk about. These are the things that I talk about the Italian league and the coaching. It is where coaches are given the priority instead of players. Yes, it might not be right in some certain instances, some certain situations, but I also think it is the perfect scenario to have a perfect league.
All right, away from Italy, we head straight to England. It was a top 5 battle. We knew Liverpool, champions, already qualified for the Champions League. Arsenal, second on the table, qualified for the Champions League. It was down to 3rd, 4th, and 5th position. 5 teams jostling for those spots, and it ended with Manchester City, Chelsea, and Newcastle. Aston Villa missing out. Let's start with that controversy. Was that a foul? Should the referee had delayed a bit before he blew his whistle? Could Aston Villa have qualified if they had gone on to score that goal? We never would have known. But hey, it is what it is. Aston Villa out of the Champions League.
So first things first, I would like to address the whole clamor about the referee.
Yeah.
Yes, he's inexperienced. Yes, this is his first or his first couple of games in the English Premier League. But I also think he didn't make a crucial error.
Are you sure?
Yes, I didn't think he made an error that affected the state of the game. I absolutely thought that was a foul. I thought Bayindia was in control of the game, but the ball was in his zone.
But on the replay,
Yeah,
he didn't grab the ball. He didn't hold the ball.
We are seeing it. The referee saw it in real time.
Yeah.
We are seeing it in slow mo. So we have to consider that the ball was in the zone of Bayindia.
Yeah.
It was right in between his arms.
Yeah.
If Morgan Rogers had not intruded into his space,
Yeah.
would he have held on to that ball? Absolutely. You don't put your legs in between the hands of a goalkeeper, regardless of any situation. And I thought the referee was right about that. And I didn't. After the game, everybody had a certain agreement about it where I watched the game.
Yeah.
So seeing a lot of clamor about it on social media, seeing a lot of clamor from Unai Emery, I just thought it was just an easy excuse for their shambolic performance at Old Trafford. I didn't think it had any states. You're already a man down. Even the situation that got you a man down, you was a reckless back pass from Matty Cash. You were all over the place, couldn't string 5 or 4 passes, and you were clamoring about a call that I thought was right.
And for Newcastle United, Bankole, they were saved by Manchester United. A draw for Aston Villa would have been enough to knock out Newcastle. But as it stands, they are in the Champions League and they have Manchester United to thank for. I don't know if you agree with me, but there's a part of me that felt like if they hadn't qualified for the Champions League, maybe Eddie Howe's job would have been under threat. Yes, I know he won the Carling Cup, but Newcastle's ambition is to play in the Champions League. And it was crucial that they got into the Champions League, not just for the club, but also for Eddie Howe.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think I was of the belief at the start of the season that probably his cycle with the club has come to an end, but he has somehow managed to change things around. He has somehow managed to lead the team to their first trophy in over a couple of decades. He has also led them to the UEFA Champions League for the second time in 3 years. So I think it would still have a lot of credit in the bank. It would still have a lot of leeway, a lot of slack to be cut from him. So I don't think if he had failed to qualify for the Champions, I don't think he would have been sacked. But I also think he would be under a lot of pressure next season. The first couple of games would have been absolutely important for him. What they do in the transfer window would have changed significantly. The chances of keeping Gordon, chances of keeping Isak would have reduced drastically. But yeah, it is a good thing that they qualified. I absolutely want to see the best of the leagues in the UEFA Champions League. And Newcastle, as it stands, are one of the best in the English Premier League.
And for Chelsea, Enzo Maresca, it was payback.
Yeah, he was quite humble about it.
I can't say some of the things he said in his presser. He used some very, very interesting choice of words, but he must be relieved. This was someone who said, hey, regardless of what happens, my job is secured. Coming out to bash the press and his critics, it felt like it was a heavy burden lifted off his shoulder.
Yeah, and he was well sure to do an humble parade about it. He made everybody know. but the truth is, I don't think a lot of people give Chelsea a lot of credit. I think at every turn, they were undermined by a lot of pundits, myself included.
Yeah.
They're a young team. They're an inexperienced team. I don't think we gave them that slack. I don't think we gave them that levitude, to make mistakes. They're the youngest squad in English Premier League history. To show you how young they are, they're the youngest squad to also qualify for the UEFA Champions League in the English Premier League. So I think they've done a good job. I think Enzo Maresca, a championship manager, now in the Champions League, I think he should be given a lot of credit. I also think Chelsea have to do a lot of work in the transfer window. Their squad building is the reason why they stumbled upon the UEFA Champions League on the last day. I think they could comfortably have gotten into this Champions League before turning into a struggle in the last day of the season. But they need to go into the market. They need to build this squad properly. They need to bring in a profile of players that complement each other. You don't just buy haphazardly just for the sake of buying. You don't buy just for the sake of market opportunities. You buy for the progress of your team, for the sake of competing. And now that you're in the Champions League, if you do not do your business well, you'll probably get embarrassed in the Champions League.
All right, we've come to the first half of the show. I'm sure you enjoyed every bit of analysis so far. We'll go on a short break. When we return, there's plenty more, especially the UEFA Champions League. Welcome back from that short break. It is still Sports Pizza, Edwin and Bankole in the building. And straight up to the UEFA Champions League. It is the biggest game of the season. The crowning moment for either Inter Milan or Paris Saint-Germain. For Inter Milan, Bankole, It's a trophy that will save face for them, and also, more importantly, for Simeone Inzaghi, banish the memories of the final loss to Manchester City. And for Paris Saint-Germain, everybody knows it is the most coveted trophy since the Qataris took charge of the club. How do you see this playing out over possibly 90, 120 minutes, or maybe penalty shootout?
So for one, I think the pressure on Simeone Inzaghi is understated. This is a manager, before he won the Scudetto, has been termed the butler in Italian football generally. His time at Lazio, he has gotten to a couple of cup finals. Also with Inter Milan, he lost the Scudetto to an AC Milan team everybody didn't expect to win the Scudetto. So I think he's under a lot of pressure. Also lost the UEFA Champions League to Man City a couple of years ago. So this is a manager who needs to win to improve his reputation. If I might say, if Simeone Inzaghi even needs improvement in his reputation. But in Italian football, the discourse around Inzaghi is not a manager who has what it takes to win things. He's not a manager who has what it takes to take you to another level. And so this would mean a lot to him. This would mean a lot to a lot of players in the Inter Milan squad: Lautaro Martinez, Marcos Thuram, Acerbi. There's a lot of interesting storylines for Inter Milan. A lot of fairy tales for Inter Milan. Also the same thing for PSG. Luis Enrique, after losing his daughter, the Spanish national team, and now in the UEFA Champions League without Kylian Mbappe. So this is going to be interesting. I think these are two teams who can cancel each other out. Inter Milan with a very good defense, Paris Saint-Germain with one of the best attacks. It's going to be down to the midfield. It's going to be down to who can control the game more, who can keep their head in the game, who can make fewer mistakes. And I think the experience of Inter Milan should count for something. But I'm really, really frightening for their defense. I don't think I'm struggling to see how they can keep up with the pace, of Dembele, Desiree Doué, Brady Bacola, and Kiwicha Kvaratskhelia. These are guys who are frightening on the attack. These are guys who have the capability of unlocking any form of defensive structure, low blocks, eye line, mid blocks, and it's going to be interesting to see the tactical battle on the sideline. Also, Luis Enrique against Simeone Inzaghi. I think this is probably going to be one of the most exciting finals for me. Well, it might not be filled with goals, but I think it would probably be one of the best chess hex football match we've seen in a long time.
I'm putting you on the spot. Who will be crowned champions?
Well, the Milan fan in me, like I always like to reference, would want PSG to win it. Would want a Donnarumma, to win it. A Donnarumma who made his debut at 16 in AC Milan. A Donnarumma who is a Milan boy through and through. I would want all of that, but I also think Inter Milan have done a tremendous job this season. They've been one of the best teams in Europe this season, even regardless if they finish the season trophyless. They've been one of the best performing teams in Europe, and I also think winning the Champions League would be a good feather on their case this season.
Let's do a bit of tennis. Roland Garros is on, and he was honored once again. Rafael Nadal. He had a plaque. He had his name printed on courts in the presence of thousands of fans, and of course the Big Four, even though some argue there's no Big Four. Andy Murray, part of the Big Four alongside Rafael Nadal, Roger Federer, and Novak Djokovic. It was an emotional day for Rafael Nadal. Tears left, right, and center. Nobody argues he's the king of clay. Still a big miss for tennis.
Absolutely. I mean, the big three for me. I'm not. I'm not of the school of thought of the big four. Rafael Nadal was probably the most fierce, the most physical of the big three. His style of play was probably also the most exciting until Djokovic came around. And I also think on clay is absolutely unbeatable. I was having a conversation with someone and he said something like, if he was French, they probably would have renamed the Grand Slam after him. And it made sense because you look at what he has done in French Open. Look at what the amount of titles he has garnered in French Open. Yes, the highest of any tennis player. So this is a manager. This is a guy who has absolutely dominated. This is a player who has absolutely dominated the clay circuit, not just the Grand Slam, but also in other ATP Masters that he has played on clay. So I think it's going to be a big miss. I think I'm struggling. I've kept on thinking of who is the next Nadal, who is in that ilk of style, who is in that ilk of player, and I don't see it yet. Hopefully, we'll see someone who will come around and make us not miss him.
And in Formula One, it was Lando Norris back on the winning podium. Took pole position in Monaco and controlled the pace of the race. In second was Charles Leclerc, who won his home race last year, but unable to do that. And in third place was Oscar Piastri with Max Verstappen finishing fourth, and the second Ferrari of Lewis Hamilton finishing fifth. It was a good race, but hey, with Monaco, you don't have a lot of chaos and subplots to it. It's very
The
difficult,
qualifying
almost
is even
impossible.
much more exciting than the race itself.
To overtake in Monaco. So good one for Landon Norris. A very emotional day for him. And before we do another break, let's tell you that in the Nigerian Professional Football League, the season has ended, and both Heartland Aqua United joined Sunshine Stars and Lobby Stars in the relegation place. And for the top teams, Remo Stars champions qualified for the CAF Champions League. Rivers United finished second and also qualified for the Champions League, while Abia Warriors finished third and booked the tickets for the CAF Confederations Cup. The final slot will go to the winner in the President Federations Cup final between Kwara United and Abakaliki FC. So keep an eye on that one. Let's go on a break. When we return, it's going to be time for the Tipsters Corner. We head straight to the Tipsters Corner, and we have just one game for you. It is a big one, the biggest game in Europe this season, the final of the UEFA Champions League, Allianz Arena on the 31st of May, Inter Milan versus Paris Saint-Germain. Bankole, over to you. What should punters look out for?
So, like I said, over the course of the show, I don't think it's going to be a game of goals. I don't think we'll see goals galore. I think at the max, we'll probably see 2 goals. I also think it's going to be a game where there will be a lot of caution in the first half. Yes, we've not seen a first half draw from Inter Milan or from PSG over the knockout stages, but I think this is probably going to be the time where we'll see our first half draw from both teams. I think we'll probably see a score draw or a goalless draw in the first half. So I think, given the fact that we also don't have a lot of games around, a first half draw carries a lot of value. We'll probably see 1.8, 1.9. So yeah, I think we should be going for a first half draw.
How about the corners market, the yellow card?
So for the corners market, you need to get very lucky about that. I'm not a big fan of the corners market. I think it depends solely on luck. It depends solely on a team being on the back burners, and I don't think either of these teams would exactly sit back. Either of these teams will exactly rely on defending, because like I said, nobody's going to score an early goal. If someone scores an early goal, it might change, but nobody's going to score an early goal. So if you don't get an early goal, if you don't get a team defending a lead, you probably won't get a lot of corners in this final.
All right, so, and yellow cards market?
Yellow card market also, I think maybe 2.5, over 2.5 yellow card, over 3.5 yellow card might be something to explore, but it carries a lot of risks for a market that does not carry a lot of value. So yeah, I think let's just go with caution and go with the first half draw.
All right, so first half draw over 1.5, under 3.5. For the corners market, Bankole said you should just slow down. Maybe under 9.5 corners, maybe that will suffice. And of course, for the yellow card market, you can go for over 2.5. And with that, we drop curtains on today's edition of Sports Pizza. I'm sure you had fun with us. We'll be back next week to review all the exciting games and of course the UEFA Champions League. Bankole, always a pleasure doing this with you. For those who don't know, our conversation extends beyond the screens. Once again, it's a pleasure having you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good. It's always nice to have a Robin to my Batman. I'm just kidding. But yes, I always enjoy myself when I'm having a conversation with you, when I'm having this thing going on. So yeah. From myself to our viewers, see you guys next week.
And from me, Edwin Onyebole said, do have a sporting weekend.